can teach from down here. I just need a whiteboard.
Yeah, I don't remember ever getting a vacation, even just to drive you down there. Did you, Dr. Magby?
She's you say she warms the streets up between here and there.
Well, evidently so. When she came online and I looked and I said, now those trees in the background is not commensurate to Carter County. And then I started looking out, that's somewhere down south from here.
Oh, let me look. Cause see, all my pictures are just tiny. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, she's not in Carter County. I see
That
that.
looks like a eucalyptus tree bush to the right, and that tall slender one back to the left. That kind of goes into the southern coastal region. And I thought,
Yep, she's done got away.
yeah. That kind of trip's reserved for us old people that we try to work in during the fall when all the kids are back in school and we can be on the beach by ourselves.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of children down here right now.
Really?
Really, there are. I can't believe it.
Huh. Yeah, they're doing their Zoom lessons from down there too, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to conceive that the whole world's doing just like we are. We think we may be isolated, but I don't think that's the case.
No.
Mr. Burke, are you in your new office?
You
You're
speak
still
to me.
muted.
You speak to me, Ginger.
Oh, I said Mr. Burke.
Oh, Bert, okay, I can hear.
You're muted, Brad.
Yeah, it's nice in here. I was talking away and I was muted.
See, I think I noticed Superintendent Callbalter, you're on there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brad, how you doing?
I'm fine. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Just confirming you're on.
Yeah, I was muted because I was doing other stuff for a minute.
Yeah, I can understand that. See, let me check our Mayor Woodby, are you on this morning?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to have you. Let me check with the rest here. Commissioner Hill, are you hooked up?
I'm here, brother. How you all doing today?
Well, I'm great. Everybody else got great big smiles on their face. And we got a vacationing queen down in the Hilton Head area, if you're not envious. Commissioner James, are you presently online?
He said he was going to be a little bit late getting online.
That boy, he ain't never been, he'll be late for his death. No, I'm telling you. Okay, by my timepiece, it is time that I call the Financial Management Committee to order for Carter County. This is the 5th of October at 7:30. We will be holding our meeting by electronics or Zoom. And I'm going to read you to the statement to qualify for it that there is no physical location for this meeting for the protection of the citizens and the health and the safety of our citizens and welfare due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That being said, I'm going to ask our committee secretary, Assistant Director Kennedy, if he would call the roll
Brad Johnson.
for,
Sorry.
go ahead,
Sorry about that.
no problem.
Brad Johnson,
Here,
Austin James, Patty Woodby,
Here.
Ginger Holdren,
Here.
Roger Cobalt,
Here.
Tracy McAbee,
Here.
Travis Hill.
Present.
so we do have a quorum, correct, Mr. Secretary?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm here too also. I just got logged in.
okay, so we have 100% that Austin James, correct? Identify your voice.
Correct.
Okay, in the, next will be the review and approval of the agenda. With that being said, I have one item to add. It's under old business. It will be numbered number 4. And it is the title is the reactivation of Evergreen wage determination contract. Is whether we're going to be restarting it or not. It needs some discussion here and guidance. So place that as number 4. Now, the remainder of our agenda before we vote on it, or if we have motion to it, I'm going to give you just a little guidance. For one, we're having this by Zoom and in the executive order number 60 issued by our governor and supported and issued by our mayor, that essential items are to be maintained. And that is at the discretion of the chair as to what the essential is. Myself, I interpret it as essential operational items. That can also change depending on the course of business in our county. With that, I'll accept a approval for the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Holdren to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second by Commissioner Hill. Any comments? Any corrections? Any additions to it other than what I've already said? Just a little bit after the horse, I guess. Seeing none, Secretary, would you call the roll?
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James. Austin James.
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobalt,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
Travis Hill.
Yes.
It is a unanimous vote, Mr. Secretary.
Yes.
Correct. Prior to the next item of the agenda, which is going to be called for the election of the chair and the vice chair, I, as the present chair, I am going to relinquish the chair down to my vice chair, which is Ms. Holdren, for the purpose of making a nomination for the upcoming chair. So Vice Chair Holdren, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. The floor is now open for nominations for the chair position for the coming year.
All right, Madam Chair, if I may be recognized.
Yes, sir.
I've come in with a nomination, and I know from the experience of our committee, one of the hardest working that I have seen, and to bring the most fruit ever been stored in this county for our employees, is because people on our committee took personal things set aside and worked extremely hard, which our employees all benefited from it, and it still are. NSA and I suffered some medical issues during the 2 years that I've served here. And I can say without reservations, the vice chair done an outstanding, a dedicated and committed job. And I cannot speak any higher than I could any other commissioner of her duties, that she represents her district and she represents our county well. And with that being said, I would like to nominate my present vice chair, and fellow Commissioner Ginger Holder.
I'll second that.
Chairwoman Holdren,
Sir,
I'll make a motion that nominations cease.
I'll second that.
we have a motion on the floor and a second by Interim Mayor Woodby. Motion made by Travis Hill that we cease nominations. So at this time, we will take a vote to whether or not to cease nominations. So Mr. Kennedy, if you would, please call the roll.
All right, give me 1 second, guys, to get caught up with this.
Yes, sir.
All right. Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
and Travis Hill.
Yes.
All ayes.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I would just like to say that I appreciate your words, Chairman Johnson. I will always think of you as my chairman. Thank you so much for the faith that you have suggested be placed in me. I am honored. And if this thing was going to happen, I'm so glad that it's happening while you're on this committee to help guide me. So I'm very humbled. Thank you so very much. So at this time, I suppose we have to vote on that. So we're now voting on Ginger Holdren as the chairman of financial management for the coming year. Mr. Kennedy.
I apologize. You were cutting in and out. So we're actually now voting on you being the chair, right?
Yes.
Okay. Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
and Travis Hill.
Yes.
All ayes.
Okay. I don't know if y'all heard what I said before or not, but I'll talk to Mr. Johnson in private later. Thank you so very much again. So now it's time to elect our vice chair for the coming year. The floor is open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Travis Hill.
Okay, we have a nomination for Travis Hill. Are there any other nominations? Okay, would anybody like to move to cease nominations?
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we cease nominations and that we elect by acclamation Commissioner Travis Hill as Vice Chair of the Financial Management Committee.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we will vote on that to make that official. Mr. Kennedy, call the roll. We are voting on ceasing nominations and electing Travis Hill, the vice chair, by acclamation.
Do we need a second on that?
No seconds are not necessary on nominations.
That sounds good. Mr. Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
and Travis Hill.
Yes.
That's good. All ayes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is to review the minutes from September 14th. And hopefully we'll be able to approve those. So take a moment to read if necessary. Mr. Kennedy, there's a couple of things that I want to change a word or two here or there on number 3 and number 12.
All right.
On number 3, it says according to Mrs. Holdren. And I would like for that to say according to the November Financial Management Committee minutes. That's what I was reading from at the time.
Are you talking about page number 3 or item number 3?
Item 3.
And you want that to say according to the November minutes?
Yes.
All right. I apologize. I didn't know what you're reading or if that was just from your memory, so that's good.
Okay. Also, same item where it says those basis. Should it say that basis?
If I can find it, I'll tell you. Let's see. Because I'm sure it probably should be that. I just cannot find it.
I think it's on down near the bottom of number 3.
The 7th line down.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Burke.
I'll have to look at that one later, but you said it's supposed to be on those bases, or I'm sorry, I can't find it for some reason. Struggling with this morning.
I think
There
it
it
should
is.
say that.
On that basis. Okay.
Okay, and then turn to item 12.
Item 12. There it is.
I said I wanted to make a note of his lack of cooperation. I can't remember now how it is worded, but I'd like for it to say of. And then right after that, I would like for it to read more like this. He had expressed numerous times over the past 2 years a problem that this committee tried to resolve.
All right.
Mr. Kennedy, if there's any question on that later, reach out to me through email.
Yeah, I'll probably definitely be doing that because I'm not quite sure which part you want me to take out, which part you want me to add for the minutes. So,
Okay, thank you, sir.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, does anybody else have any changes, additions, omissions for the minutes of September? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve them then with those changes.
So moved.
Do Do we have a second?
Boy, Ginger, everybody else must have tight lips this morning, but I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from September. Mr. Kennedy, please call the roll.
Brad Johnson,
Yes,
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
I'm going to abstain since I was not present.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbey,
Yes.
Travis Hill.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The minutes are approved. Thank you so much. On our agenda now, it is time for public comments. I don't really see a member of the public present.
Hey guys, I apologize. I just got notification somebody fell and I have to do a liability claim on that. So I'll be right back if.
Yeah, Michael, I think they're okay, but they're needing you to come down.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, so seeing no public comments, we will move into old business. The first item under old business is to schedule the review of the financial management policies and procedures. So this coming year, we're going to be looking at all of those policies and procedures. So at this time, we're going into a discussion about which one we should review first and so on. We probably need a little direction here, Director Burke, as to what the topics are or what you think should come first.
Okay. Thanks, Chairman Holman. Actually, in the February 2020 minutes of the Financial Management Committee meeting, on page 4, there is a schedule that was presented. I don't see any approval for it, but a schedule was presented as far as the order of the policies. And I can read those out if you'd like.
Will you please, since I don't have that?
Okay. Okay, the first item would be the ethics code and purchasing policy. 2 would be debt management. 3, travel and use of telephone equipment. 4, credit cards and internet usage policy. 5, budget process. 6, capital asset management.
Okay. Let me read them back to you in short form.
Okay.
So first you had ethics and purchasing. Second was debt management. Third is travel and use of the telephone. 4th is internet usage and credit cards.
Right.
Then budget. Then capital asset management.
Correct.
Okay, those that were on this committee over the past year, seems to me like we've already looked at didn't we look at credit card already?
We or you all adopted a credit card policy / user agreement for anybody that uses any of those credit cards. And those are currently being used. And as far as anything else goes, is as part of the formal policies and procedures, there have been no actual changes made. Of course, a lot of the policies that'll go in the formal document will come from that user agreement.
Okay, and then Director Burke, I'm also remembering that we made a change to the travel policy to leave it at the department head's discretion about overnight stays?
Mhm. That has been made to the version that is online on the county's website.
You say it has been made on the website?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I would want you to explain why budget and capital assets are down at the bottom of the list. Those seem like very important things to me, so I'm just asking for an explanation, sir.
Right. And I mean, now that you mentioned, since we are coming up on budget process, I would think it's appropriate to move that up to number 1.
Chairwoman Holdren.
Yes, Commissioner Hill.
I'd have to direct a question to Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke, I'm sure we have some kind of cash management policy, I guess would be the right term for it. But are most of the departments now following, getting the deposits in within 3 days?
As far as I know.
Okay. I know we seem to be having problems with the landfill. Some of them, the convenience centers were having problem getting theirs turned in either to the bank or to the trustee's office.
Well, I understand their deposits are made daily by the landfill now.
That's good. Vice Chairman Hill, are you finished?
Yes.
What about capital asset management, Mr. Burke? Since we are in the process of looking at purchasing property or greatly increasing the looks and usability of the workforce development complex, would it be good if we move that closer to the top as well?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So even if we don't form an ethics committee, we still need to look at those ethics policies. Is that right?
Right.
The Chairwoman Holder,
Yes, sir.
on that was course number 2 on your old business. I had taken this to our county attorney to speak with him concerning the creation of the Ethics and Investigation Committee. And in our conversation, and I think you all can fathom this in your mind, if that was formed, they has no presence and there is no laws that would give an authority whatsoever to these 2 committees. And without authority, all you're doing is just meeting. It's your tail chasing the cat instead of the other way around. The system that has been used is very effective, and it's even from an individual level as a elected official or our county commission, commissioners or a commission as a whole, that of any complaint of importance that they feel, whether it's singly or it does have as a group, that it comes to our county attorney for investigation. Now, once that's investigated, him under the authority of the law, if they find probable cause, more than reasonable suspicion, if they find probable cause, he has authority to go right straight to the Attorney General for that review and for possible prosecution. Now, there is one exception too under the 81 Act. Since we have a finance director, the financial director can have sole investigative rights if it deals with the money of the county, and that only. Anything ethical still needs to go through our county attorney for investigation. So if you can imagine having 8 members of our committee, of our commission, on an investigation committee with 0 experience of how to even set up an investigation and what the results of that be, I'm really afraid that any rumor that could go through would come through and probably just drive everybody crazy to no resolve. So it, I think with his recommendation, I think that needs to go back to the main floor and told, that we do not recommend it because of there is no authority that can be given for such a thing.
Okay. Let's put that off for just a second. Hold that thought. Let's get the order of the policies and procedures that we're going to review, and then we'll move on and finish discussing what Mr. Johnson just brought forward. So
When I heard you say the ethics committee, I thought, oh, she's dropped down to number 2, and I went brain dead or something.
okay. So what you all have heard Director Burke and I talking about is maybe putting budget at number 1, capital asset management at number 2, ethics and purchasing 3, debt management 4.
We can move that to the bottom,
Move debt to the bottom.
debt management.
Okay. So that means the 4th would be travel and use of telephone. 5th would be internet and credit cards, and debt management would come last.
Chairwoman Holder,
Yes.
could we possibly move the capital asset management to number 1? I feel like we need to get maybe a plan in place on our capital assets, especially if we're going to do any kind of replacement or funding for that, and then we can work that into the budget process.
Okay. I'm going to move that up to number 1 based on that suggestion. Does anybody else have any suggestions for movement before we open the floor for a motion to do them in this order?
One thing on capital asset management, it also applies to non-capital asset equipment, county-owned property. For example, vehicles are supposed to be identified as county property, which normally is done through a decal on the doors on each side of the vehicle. Equipment having county identification on them, it deters using these things for private uses. Plus, the public can see these vehicles out in the area and could see them if they were where they shouldn't be. And for example, for the assessor's office, when they go out to somebody's property, their vehicles need to be identified as such.
Brad, do we have a percentage of vehicles that are not identified properly?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat this list one more time, and if you all are satisfied with this order, then the floor will be open for a motion to make this our schedule. So at number 1, we're going to review capital asset management, which also includes non-capital asset management. Number 2, budget. Number 3, ethics and purchasing. Number 4, travel and use of the telephone. 5, internet and credit cards. And 6, which is also last, is debt management. The floor is open for a motion to accept that as our schedule.
This is Roger. I'll make that motion for the schedule.
Thank you,
Second.
Superintendent Cobal. Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McAbee. All right, any other discussion? All right, Mr. Kennedy, are you settled back in to do a vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
and Travis Hill.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. So Director Burke, can you bring before us next month the capital asset policies as they stand right now?
Yes.
Okay, actually, if you could email those even a week or so before the meeting would be great so that we can start looking over it. All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Now, item 2, which is what Commissioner Johnson was talking about. We have mentioned for a few months the possibility of creating an ethics committee and an investigative committee. Mr. Johnson reached out to Attorney Hardin and reported a few minutes ago on that conversation and that recommendation. So does this committee want to put forth an official recommendation whether to scrap this idea and leave it as is with Attorney Hardin being in charge of all matters that need investigation, except for the possibility of money matters, which Director Burke would be in charge of the investigation?
Does having an ethics committee, is that required by the state of Tennessee?
I do not believe so. This was what we were going to choose to do. It's not a requirement.
Chairwoman Holden, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
I just like to add to that, years ago, when I first started in government service for the county, at one time there was an investigation committee through our commission. And I can tell you, it was a beast and it was a farce, and it wound up that there was more hurt done than good was done, because they had went, like I said earlier as an example, they started chasing their own tail because they were going on rumor mill, not on actual facts, and it just got bogged down to where there was no activity by them, because there was no means by law to give them any authority. If you don't have subpoena rights, you have actually nothing to force or to have the authority to question or to look into, because you have to get into personal areas. I don't know what they would think, where the thought line was when this came up. I think it might have come from the Rules and Bylaws Committee, if I'm not mistaken, that it be sent to the Financial Management for policy review. But I don't know the gist of why that came up.
I'm on that committee, but I don't remember either, sir.
Yeah. And then I apologize to you too, Chair, by getting out of line of that thing. It just makes me feel like Charles Long Cannon there for a minute. I thought, when I heard the word, I was ready to go. Bless old Charlie.
No, that's good. We needed to hear what you had to say about it. So again, the floor is open for a recommendation to take to the full commission on this topic.
I'll make a motion to not have an ethics committee and to bring the issues to the attention of our attorney, Josh Hardin.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Superintendent Cobalt, a second by Interim Mayor Woodby, to take the recommendation to the full commission of not creating these committees of ethics and investigation and leaving those duties as the 81 Act provides. Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, roll call, please.
All right. Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Woodby,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbey,
Yes.
Travis Hill.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so thank you. There's one item that can come off of our old business. Third is our compensation time policy. And Director Burke, I'm going to ask you to begin this discussion by bringing forth our current compensation time policy.
Okay. It is, the policy is located in the employee handbook on page 16. And the county has a policy, with the exception of the sheriff's department. They have their own policy as far as a maximum amount can be accrued. And it's 100 hours for county and 480 for the sheriff's department. And it does say in the policy, it does read, comp time may be given to those employees who work overtime. I think currently there's a mixture of comp time being granted and then overtime in certain instances. Of course, the sheriff's department they have worked their balances down some. They still have some sizable balances of comp time. I guess where some of the issues come from is as far as paying the overtime instead of granting comp time. And I can't remember exactly what the county attorney had to say about it, but the employees do sign a comp time form when they receive their employee handbook. Are you on here, Josh? Okay. To me, I guess the policy needs to be more clear.
Madam Chairwoman Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
I think it needs to be expounded on a little bit more. Number one, your main emphasis here is that comp time will be accrued up to 100 hours for our employees, with the exception of the sheriff's department for their policy, since they are 7/24 every day of the week and of the year. Theirs is at 480. Now, keep in mind in this policy that two things. Number one, if an employee hits 100 and then in the sheriff's department employee hits 480, before money is expended for either one of them two to get their cap down, that it needs to be supervised where they come before the budget committee and then to the full commission to expend those funds. On the point number two is this past budget cycle is the first time it came up, and I called attention to it, which Director Burke can verify it, that now there is line items for overtime. So what that does, that destroys any control for the 100 or the 480 to come before a finance committee or a the budget committee or the full commission, to where we can authorize the funds to be used. Now, in return for that, and going through that process, that saves the money that is on line items, which actually more or less commits it to that, and it stays in our budget lines. I mean, on the general fund rather than in a budget line for future use, or it can be extracted by the budget committee or the full commission to be used as a line item to pay out when this item comes up, but it's just not explained any further in that. Because a supervisor or a department head should be asked to qualify those people that goes over that limit, because that's a management too. If you've got somebody that is hardened down and laden with a whole lot of overtime, then voila, turn the light bulb on. That means that you may need to go in and ask for a full-time employee, because you're paying more out in overtime than you are if you paid full salary for that work to be done.
And it does tie in with the section 5.2 title overtime. It does say that any employee that works over 40 hours per week is entitled to overtime at the rate of 5 hours per hour. And it also does reference comp time in there. It says anyone who works over 40 hours in a work week is entitled to compensation for such hours, either in cash at the rate of 1.5 times their regular rate of pay, or with a prior agreement or understanding between the employer and employee, comp time off at the rate of 1.5 hours for each hour of overtime. So there's an option there.
But with that option though, that pretty well just still leaves it wide open, instead of giving a straight line, here is the process you need to go through. In previous employment on the federal government side, they would grant compensation identified just like here, 1.5 per hour of actual overtime to comp time, but there is no overtime paid until you hit a certain limit. Just like we have in our, when you hit 100. And then again, they, being the government, says, okay, I want to hear why that you're allowed to get up to that much and no corrective action. And they look at the supervisor and the director of the service and say, why did you not give that employee time off to eliminate having to expend money out of the budget line for 5, 6, and 7 hours of comp time that's accrued over a long period of time? Which, if you look at our timetables of our employees under the different department heads, you'll find that there are a whole lot of them that only has 2 hours overtime for the whole month. We'll give them 2 hours off, and that saves having to go through and extract funds out of our budget.
And another issue is the fact the employee handbook, each elected official is entitled to either follow the county policy or adopt their own. And that doesn't have to be approved by the commission, it just has to be presented to the commission.
Because they're an elected official,
Right.
covered under the Tennessee Code Annotated, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And the employee handbook is going to be have some major work done on it too. That will be addressed during that process. And we'll be working along with county attorney.
Okay, so just to kind of bring us back to the point of making a decision on this topic, we've heard a good explanation from Director Burke of where we stand presently. We've heard thoughts from Commissioner Johnson on how this could be handled to save the county money if it is stated such that comp time must be taken before overtime can be paid. And then they have to go before the budget committee, even then, before overtime can be paid out of a budget line item. So does anybody feel like you're ready to make a motion on this and maybe change the comp time policy to be more specific as to the order things are requested to be done in?
Yeah, I know Roger has a separate policy too. Is yours anything over 80 hours, Roger, overtime?
Yes, sir. We pay, uh, anything over 80 hours, we pay the time out. Actually how it's worked, when an employee works 1 hour over, they get 1.5 hours time. When that time gets up to 80 hours, uh, then we pay straight time for every hour because it's already been calculated for 1.5 times the hourly rate. The way we work that makes it pretty simple, and everybody over 80 is paid out at that time that they get that. A lot of our employees use their comp time, and therefore we don't pay out a whole lot of money on on overtime unless we get into a critical condition out on the roadway like snow and ice or a storm or something that brings a lot of trees down.
Well, with that being said, if you have an employee during a fiscal year in your service, let's say gets 60 hours of overtime, never makes it to that 80 hours, and they go over into the next year and don't build up to 80 hours, does that mean that that person, I'm going to say lose it, but I'm sure that that employee put in the extra time would like to have some compensation one way or the other, but does our policies give that guidelines or that direction to the director of that service or to the service head to that service?
With the highway department, the employee never loses the time unless he takes it off or is paid for it.
Yeah, it can't be taken away.
No, that'd be a violation of the labor law. I know that. But if, we put limits like Superintendent Cobalt has an 80-hour limit, and then the sheriff's department is on the 480, and our general employees are at what, 70?
100.
At 100. So if you get there less than those numbers, how long does it go before they're even told, go ahead and take off from your employment to compensate you for that time? Or when do you pay them? I mean, there's possibilities that there's an employee that can have that for 3 years and never break that 100 or that 480 or that 80 hours.
With the highway department, we've not had that problem. The people take them off, or they just hold that time. Now, when they retire or quit, of course, we got to pay that out at that time. With just a limit in 80 hours comp time, and then start paying overtime, you don't get into any big numbers of overtime. That I think some of the departments having that kind of problem. But with the highway department, we don't have that.
Could it be written into our policy that when an employee reaches half of the allowable hours of comp time, that they be required to start taking it? Or maybe not half, maybe 3/4, but could we set a policy inside this to try to head it off before they reach their maximum number of hours?
As far as the county goes, other than the sheriff's department, there's really, it's the EMA director and Jacqueline. We've kept hers under 100 hours ever since we had the payout here a few months ago. And she should be getting much less now that we've got some help back there. I don't know.
Chairman Holman, do we want to look at, let's say, a semi-annual report from our finance director giving us a caption or a brief as to the status of comp time, overtime of the county for the review of the financial management.
I like the idea of a semi-annual report.
Well, maybe the adjustment of the compensation policy and the overtime policy. Maybe we may want to hold back for 6 months till we get an actual 6-month report and actually see what the numbers are, which you may want to decide to extract from our present policy or add to our present policy, depending on what is showing up.
Chairwoman Holdren.
Yes, Commissioner Hill.
I know the labor laws are pretty strict, but could you make the policy where basically we're only going to pay them out for 100 hours? They can build as much time as they would like if they want to get it up to 150 hours, but which at point they could use to take off. And at 100 hours when they leave, that's all we pay out for. If they was to retire or whatever, and that gives them time, they can build as much time, but they can only get paid out 100 when they leave. And maybe that would force them to cut down on the amount of comp time and actually burn time.
You have to pay them for anything, whether it's 150 or 200.
Yeah, and also if you have employees, they're not always in control of their time. Their boss may require them to work certain times, and if we don't pay them out, but they were forced to work, I could see that being an issue in the future.
Okay, I know some of our exempt employees gain comp time and they can only get up to 100, but if they leave, it's in our policy that they can't cash out. So basically, if they leave, retire, quit, get fired, they lose that time because they are exempt employees.
No, that's different since they're exempt.
Yeah, and we do not let our exempt, for example, all the meetings I go to, commission meetings, all that's free. I don't get paid for any of those meetings because I'm an exempt employee. I don't even get comp time, so.
Thank you.
Based on what I'm hearing from Director Burke, and my own personal thoughts, I feel like we need to at least change our policy to state that employees are to try to use their comp time if they and their boss can manage to do that. That paying overtime instead of taking the comp time has to go before the budget committee for approval with explanation from the department head as to why the comp time cannot be taken.
I mean, as far as approving the payment of overtime, if that's submitted for payment, we couldn't withhold payment until after it's approved. We have to pay it on the regular scheduled payday.
Okay, then what was it that I misunderstood? What were you saying earlier about coming before the budget committee?
Well, if it is a payment for overtime that is greater than what the line item of their employment is, or of their employer or that service chief, to expend the funds, they would have to allocate it some from one of the line items to that. They would supposed to come before the budget committee to start with. And I know that the sheriff's department has done that previously, and it's been a while that I've seen them come up before that to authorize use, because in them they have such a big, large turnover that there is balances budgetary wise in there that can be used to pay that down near the end of the year. But anytime they pay over the 100 or the 80 or the 480 number for those services, they should come before the budget committee for the allocation of that money or the use of it, because it needs some great explanation to be done, or it could be coming to the financial management committee if you want to write it such as that. I mean,
currently this is for the sheriff's department. They budget, I think it's 250,000 in the sheriff's department budget, and then 250 in the jail budget for overtime. And the source of those funds for the budget comes from the excess board bill. And of course, they'll have overtime every second payday, since they work on a 28-day, 171-hour work cycle.
Director Burke,
Mm-hmm.
do you happen to know what the liability on our books are right now for all the comp time due in the county is?
I can tell you as of June 30th. Bear with me just a minute.
Okay, take your time, Brad.
All right. Okay, not including the highway department, it would be 187,000. That's including Social Security and retirement.
Okay, thank you. As much lower than I was expecting, so.
Okay,
I missed that. Did you say 100,000?
187.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we've spent quite a bit of time on this topic. I feel that we need to move on. So if there's not going to be a motion from this committee, I'm going to move on to the next item.
Move on.
Okay. Item number 4 is the reactivation of Evergreen wage determination contract. Can somebody in the finance department please update this committee on where Evergreen stands in the process?
So
Go ahead,
yes,
Mike.
yeah. So Evergreen, as you guys know, the next step in Evergreen was to have our group meetings. With COVID, that was not going to happen, obviously. We are still, I know that the interim mayor just, I think, released last week that we, for the month of October, will still be under the mask mandate. So with that being said, I'm not sure what you guys want to do. I did get an email from Nancy Berkeley from Evergreen last week, and I forwarded it to Mr. Johnson and to Mr. Burke. And she was just checking in. It says, just checking in. Hope you're doing well. Several of our clients were holding until October, and they are now starting their studies. So I'm not sure if you guys are comfortable with getting all the employees together in these group meetings now to get this going forward, or if you guys want to wait another month and see where we stand then.
Chairwoman Holden,
Yes.
just to add to that, remember, we're under executive order. I don't know where their other clients is, and that also regulates the amount of numbers that can be in group meetings. As to witness, that's why we're not having full county commission meeting, because we don't have space for 24. So look how many employees you got. That has to be governed by the governor, because the state is under emergency. That's why he's allowed to give the executive order, and followed up by the mayors of our county. So it's commensurate to them on what they authorize. And as right now, the executive order is to have no such meetings, except in Zoom or something like that. But
Mr. Kennedy, is that the only way they can handle this?
There was the other way of handling it would be me, Brad, and myself handling these meetings with each office. We would just have a presentation. We'd have to present to them. We'd be essentially doing what Evergreen would come up here to do. So we would do the presentations, get them to do their job assessment tools, which is they'd have to log in, do an assessment of what they do. Their supervisors will also have to do the same thing. And then the Evergreen was going to meet with both. So I guess at that point, Brad and I would meet with both employees and their supervisors. So that would be another option. I don't think Zoom would be an option because we have a lot of employees who do not utilize computers at all, and especially at the highway department. And I think that would be very difficult to do that. So I think that's our only options right now.
But if you use those options, that are options that is paid in their contract. So we in essence will be doing their work for them. Correct?
Yes, we'd be doing a portion of their work if Brad and I took over the job assessment tools
Right.
and did the presentations.
This is Roger. I think that you two men have a lot to do besides that. So I think we ought to put this on hold to next month and see what kind of shape we are then.
A good idea.
In our last full commission meeting, did we not have to put forth some money to Evergreen?
No, so all we did in last month's meeting is from last year to this year, obviously that money was not still set in the budget because as you would know, money would have to be pulled back into fund balance or wherever it was if it was allocated and not spent. So all Brad and I were doing is we were recognizing the actual money to be in an expenditure line item to be paid out once the study is started, but we have not actually made any payment toward them yet.
Okay. Then I understand. So they've not been paid anything and they're not doing anything. So right now, all things are equal.
Yep. We're just
Okay.
waiting for us.
Okay, so Superintendent Cobal, would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I would, that we postpone it till our next meeting and discuss then how to go. Maybe the mask mandate will be up some, hopefully.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So motion by Superintendent Cobal, second by Vice Chair Hill. Any discussion on postponing this until hopefully November? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, please call the roll.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Austin James,
Yes.
Patty Whitney,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
and Travis Hill.
Yes.
All ayes.
Right. So that concludes our old business. Does anybody need a break?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
While you're there, Chairman Holland, just go outside the back door and pick up them strange golf balls that falling over in your yard there, and you can bring them back to old Brad.
Okay.
Well, they do use those expensive ones. I don't.
I have to use yellow and orange.
Crystal? Crystal? Okay. Let's see if I can get in on my phone. Hey, Brad?
Which one?
The good looking one, I hope.
I'm out.
That's a toss-up. I'd have to throw a quarter in there to find out which one's the best looking one. Brad Bird, I guess, because is Skywood down right now? We can't get on to it anywhere.
It is.
It's down? Okay. We had a PO we wanted to put in very quick because we got a truck tore up. But I guess it'd have to wait.
We're working on it.
Okay. Brad, another thing, Brad Bird, of course, we, on the budget meeting, Mark Blevin's supposed to put an item on the agenda and for the highway department about some trucks. But I need that, if possible, pretty early on the agenda because I think the budget meeting starts at 6 o'clock next Monday. And at 7 o'clock, I've got a cemetery meeting that I need to go to. We could have that pretty early in the agenda to where I could, if I can get out of the office here for 6:30, I can be at the cemetery meeting on Stony Creek at 7.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll want me to comment on it. Highway committee passed it last Thursday.
Okay, so I believe more than 5 minutes is up. Let's try to get back into business. We're on the new business now, and the first item is the recent bids. So, Mr. Kennedy, please.
All right, as you guys will notice, they look exactly the same as last week. The only thing I did is I adjusted the multi-tenant fit out to say Sean Shanks Architects. There was no value given to that bid yet. as far as any cost. And then the mowing and trimming services for Carter County Schools, I think that's still under review as of now. Unless Tracy, have you heard anything from Mr. Walsh about that yet?
He brought me by a folder yesterday. And so, yeah, he has some numbers here. And I haven't even read through all of them yet. Do I need to get that submitted to you guys?
Not yet. That's one of those things. I know that you guys usually bring that before your board, before we put it in the actual financial management packet. So I just didn't know if you wanted to do any follow-up.
All right. Yeah, after our workshop this Thursday, I'll definitely get that over to you guys.
That's perfect. So I think that's all we have, Ginger.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Item number 2. I'll turn this over to Director Burke. He was going to introduce to us the new employees in his department.
I think we're going to hold off to introduce them until we can meet in person. But the payroll / HR clerk started last Monday. Her name is Rita Watt. And the accountant started this morning. Her name is Alexandria Morse. And we're thankful to have them on board. We appreciate your support for funding those.
Okay. I want to make sure I got their names right. Is it Rita Watt, W-A-T-T?
Yeah.
And Alexandria Morse?
Morse.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We look forward to meeting them and having the peace of mind and knowing that somebody besides Jacqueline is going to be able to do that payroll.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Item number 3 is a county credit account with Amazon.com. A corporate line is being requested with a limit of $11,500. Do y'all want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll cover that. So essentially, we had a standard Amazon account when I first started. And we've had that for the past 4 years that I've been here. And that account can be difficult because I'm the only one and Brad's the only one that has access to the account. So therefore, everyone has to take pictures or send me a description, and it leaves a lot of room for error. So what we did is I got contacted by Amazon to set up an Amazon business account, which is much better. It follows very, very similar procedures that we have in payroll or purchasing. And that is each person has a login in each department now. They can go in, pick whichever item they want, put it in the cart, but it cannot be purchased by anyone except for myself, Brad, or a purchasing clerk. That way they can have it in there and it's ready to go. So with that new account being set up, we used to have a credit account with the old Amazon. We'll need to get a new credit account with the Amazon business. And that account, the credit limit that they have on it right now is $11,500. So that's what we're requesting. I don't see us ever using that much, but it's probably not bad to have it in case there's a big purchase that needs to be made.
So will the other card be destroyed and go out of use?
So there was no card attached with it. It was just an Amazon credit limit. And yes, that credit limit will be taken out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve this new business line of credit with Amazon.com by Vice Chair Hill, seconded by Mayor Woodby. Any discussion or questions? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, call the roll, please.
Brad Johnson.
Yes.
Austin James. Austin James.
Yes.
Patty Woodby.
Yes.
Ginger Holdren.
Yes.
Roger Cobalt.
Yes.
Tracy McAbee.
Yes.
And Travis Hill.
Yes.
All ayes. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Okay, item 4 under new business is a financial director update.
I don't really have much other than I've been spending quite a bit of time on the CARES Act funding, $845,000 from the federal government through the state. As it currently stands, the overwhelming majority of that will be spent for hazard pay for the sheriff's department employees. The last estimate was around 650,000, but there has been around $90,000 spent besides that, and the cutoff for the final request for funding is November the 1st. And the final date that any funds can be spent, which means that the goods have been received or the services have been received, is December 30th.
So we have to have our decisions made by November 1st and spent by December 30th.
I have to submit the final request for funds on November 1st. Even though there's going to be some money spent afterwards, they'll just take that and hold it until they receive the documentation where the funds are actually spent. Or
Did you
the
say the
service
sheriff's
fee.
department total? The sheriff's department total is about 650,
Yes,
and then there's 90,000 additional that we've spent on other things.
right.
So we spent about 740 out of 845.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for him on this topic?
Brad, on the sheriff's department on the hazardous pay, I know that they plan to bring that through budget. That's not been brought through yet, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's going to be on budget's agenda this coming meeting, so for discussion.
Okay,
And Brad, has all projects that the county wanted to do COVID related, have they been figured into this?
We still got some things that are, haven't occurred yet, such as Johnny's office, circuit clerk's office wants an iPad for the bookkeeper to work remotely from home. I know there have been several computers purchased for that reason. And that is, of course, an eligible expense. Circuit are getting some awnings for when winter sets in or it's raining, whatever, for the people there for court to have shelter.
Yeah, because as of right now, they're still having to stand outside.
I mean, I know this will come before budget, so I'd rather see all the projects done before we spend out all that money in salaries for hazard pay.
so I can vouch for the need for protection from the rain over at the courthouse. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, if we can get it done, I think we've submitted it to Brad, the 3 quotes, but it'll be all the way from the door to the end of the sidewalk, and then from where the employee entrance door is from the clerk's office, we'll meet up with it. It will be very nice. Because as of right now, we don't know how long the courts will be limited to people going in. So rain and snow or whatever may happen.
Mayor, is that a tent shelter? Is that a tent shelter, a tent-like shelter, or is it a permanent fixture?
It's a permanent awning that'll be actually put into the sides of the ground, cemented in on the grass. It'll look really nice. It's permanent.
Okay, Director Burke, in our last meeting, we asked you to ask Sequoia to start working on those total compensation reports. Has that begun?
It has. I received one last week. It still needs some work done to it. From what the person from Sequoia says, the possibilities for that are endless. Myself, I would like to see of course, all the benefits, not only the health insurance, but the comp time, vacation, and sick leave on there. Because that definitely is a huge benefit.
And I think that we're gonna have to get our payroll department matched up with them at some point before they finish this, Brad, because I did receive a couple myself and they were using old data, old payroll data. So we'll definitely have to get them updated figures as far as salaries.
Right.
I think I missed the word that you said, Director Burke, but now I can't even remember enough to ask you a question. You said something, you said three things, something, vacation, and I missed the third word completely.
Sick leave.
Okay. So it's sick, vacation, and
Holidays.
holidays. Okay. So it's just a matter of your department deciding exactly what you want them to show, and then they'll do it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for following up on that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, any other questions for him before we move on? Okay, item number 5 brings us to the county general update by Mayor Woodby.
Drum roll.
Hail to
Come
the
on, Brad
queen.
Johnson.
Hail to the queen.
Drum roll. All right, just a few things to update you guys on. Of course, this is just week 2. So I wanted to update you on the substation this week, considering the weather's going to be good. Ron and Rob are going to go up to the water and power. It will take them 2 days to finish that. That will be completed. And then there's just some other loose ends that need to be tied up there. That's on track to be completed very soon. The Fish Springs Park, I know that Mayor Barnett had been working on. Went to Mr. Arnett's class last week and his students redid the drawings for me on the tract of land that was donated by Union Baptist Church. There's also another tract of land that meets up with that tract or that parcel. We're going to ask the board to see if they will also donate that, which will make it a very large park and very nice. If we can get them to donate that tract, we could begin possibly having Roger or planning go in and start removing the rock from the land. And then Mr. Arnett's class will also design the playground equipment and everything that's going to go to that. So that'll be moving along quite soon. COVID numbers, as of yesterday, Carter County is at 63 active cases, which I think is great. So we're there. Let's see, the boiler's been serviced and it's ready to fire up when we need heat. And also Ron replaced the backflow prevention valve. So it's looking good, ready to go. Seems to be no problems with it at this point. He's going to go ahead and fire it up just to have it ready to when in case of the colder nights, it will kind of go ahead and be ready to kick on. Of course, we done the bond refinancing, which was great news for Carter County. Major amount of savings. Director Burke, do you want to touch base on that, on a recap of that?
Yeah. The present value of the interest savings for that refunding was over $2.3 million, which was, that amount was more than $200,000 more than the most recent estimate that Raymond James provided. And that's a savings over the next 15 years, which the term of the bonds is the same. It wasn't extended or anything. And we're very pleased and grateful to get those savings for the taxpayers.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. So thanks for everybody for working on that. It's just a great opportunity for the taxpayers and the county government.
Brad,
Mm-hmm.
do you happen to have the amortization schedule on that bond?
I do.
Can you send that out to us?
I will.
Thank you.
All right.
Update on the copier that was purchased for the mayor's office. It has been purchased. We're waiting on the rep to get it back with us. It's a full out purchase. There's no lease contract with us. So it was just a full buyout purchase. So that's en route to us. And I do not have an update on the resort. I haven't touched base or spoken with anybody on that activity since I've been here. So as soon as I get one, I will let the committee know. Also, we have secured some storage for the county offices to place their files in. It's up behind the college. Commissioner James had brought it to my attention for the circuit court clerk's office. But as I realized, it's a very large storage area. We rekeyed it last week for the office holders to have keys to it. We will begin moving storage from the finance department this week. They are overwhelmed in their office to the point they can't even get their employees' office space in the office to get the new guys in there. So we're trying to get some of that out. We will also clear the third floor out. Will be moved to that space. Randall's office has items going there. Jared's office will have items going there. Circuit court clerk's office will have all their items going there. It's ventilated. It has lighting. It's a perfect space for what we need right now. Seems like there's an overwhelming amount of storage needed for all the offices. So that's a short-term, possibly long-term fix for the office holders at this point, but it will also help alleviate some of the storage on the third floor. As you know, the third floor is not in the best shape. It's got a lot going on up there, and there's very worrisome about the floors. So that's an update from the past week that I've been here. Thank you all.
Mayor Woodby,
Yes.
can any of that facility up there be used for the archives management?
Possibly could. It's a great building. I mean, there's a lot of space. It can be secured even more if we need it, as far as if, there's certain things that you don't want anybody to see, but it possibly could. And I know there's funds to maybe update it even more, but it is a step in that direction.
Access
Okay,
to those records should be very limited.
So it's an option to fix for a short term right now. I know Brad's office, like I said, finance, they showed me everything they got. It's stacked against the walls and everything inside the office. So I really want to help get that cleared out for them.
Organization is going to be extremely important so that each department can find what they need to find later.
Yes. And Ginger, it's such a large space that they will be able to, and possibly we can use some of the money out of the archives fund to put shelving in there to where they can actually label it and go in with their keys. And then during the winter, it's going to be heated, so it won't be cold if they have to go look for items. And it's just the only negative is the drive to the workforce development. But that's really it. And I think it's a great move to get some of these offices cleared up.
Well, for such a long drive, they just have to take a container of moose tracks to where they can
That's
stop
right.
it before you get up there. Oh.
I think it's very important for the county to move fairly quickly towards getting an archivist. These records retention, there are state laws regarding those, and different types of records, of course, have different retention periods, and they have to be protected, of course. So I would think that would be a fairly urgent thing to be taken care of.
I agree with you, Brad. I'm sure Chancery Court, and I know the Circuit Court Clerk's Office has divorces that go back to the 1800s, some 1700s, that people are always wanting to come in and look at and just get an idea, just the genealogist's point of view. So it's definitely an important situation we need to start looking further into and harder into.
Chairman, there is I don't know, he's not chairman anymore. Is Mr. James on here right now?
Yes, I'm here.
Austin, can any of those rooms up there in workforce development be altered to turn it into for the archives?
Probably, which is part of the design fit out plan we had sent out. So whoever takes over buildings and grounds is, if they try to follow up with that, that was one of the things that we had requested. Of course, we had sent it through building and grounds, if I remember correctly, to send it back to I believe we have archiving committee, to try to meet and get together about hiring an archivist. Because we're roughly taking in about $120,000 a year, so we have more than enough money to pay somebody. And we're just going to try to get somebody to start working on getting everything digitized and organized and put away. Because even if we put it in the building, we're going to have somebody there that when people go, I mean, we can't have office holders running up every time somebody's wanting to pull records or look at something. So that was what we thought would be the first step, was go ahead and try to get somebody employed and start pulling all the files together, and see if we can't get them digitized already. And that way they'd be a lot more readily accessible, and we probably wouldn't have to have as much of a storage area. We could probably use some of the warehouse back there, like Miss Woodby was talking about. We can make them accessible online, but that's something that can be done with those funds.
Thank you.
Brad, Burke, how much do you have right offhand? How much is in that reserve for the archives?
Okay, as of
I think it's
June
a little
30th,
over 500, ain't it, Brad?
yeah, as of June 30th, it's about $500,000.
And Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not discuss, did we roughly not take in $125,000 on that last year? And that kind of seems where it's kind of hovering somewhere around over 100, I believe, what you told me.
Yes, you're correct. It's 126,000.
126, yeah. So, there's plenty enough money there to hire somebody. I mean, I don't know how much you'd have to pay an archivist, but I'd imagine probably somewhere around 40, 50,000. You need somebody that knows how to handle the files properly and make sure they don't get damaged any more than they already are. So I think that's the first step is, and we had Building and Grounds had asked, I think Miss Woodby, did we ask, aren't you on that committee?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, we'd asked her to get with whoever it, so. And ask them to meet and try to see about getting something together, a salary and a job requirement, and see if we can get that submitted out and try to get somebody hired to go ahead and move forward with. My main thing is I think we need to really push hard to get them digitized. If we have them accessible online, it's going to cut down a lot on the time for the office holders and everybody to run up there and pull files out. And then, it'll make it a lot easier for the archivist, unless you just got somebody that's wanting to actually look at the original. Anyways, so that's where we're at with it.
So Interim Mayor Woodby, I would say that if you can get that moving, you would have support for that.
Yeah, I will. I will start working on it. I might even like to take a trip down to Washington County and kind of see how they are doing their archive building, because that's the type of setup that they have. They have someone in there that's running it. You walk in, you tell them what you need. So that probably needs to be the first thing I will do, is just kind of maybe take a trip down there and see how they're kind of doing their setup.
Okay. And the only other question I had was, does that mean that I think 3 rooms that are being used for storage inside the workforce development complex can be emptied for rent or for schooling purposes?
Correct. That will be the circuit court clerk's office, and they will be moving all of theirs with their shelving in those rooms over to that storage unit.
Excellent. That's great.
That should clear up all the rooms to be empty in the workforce development.
Okay.
Yes, everything except the vault, correct, Miss Woodby?
Yes, the vault is where we have evidence, and at this point, we decided to kind of leave that there until we get a more secure area in that storage unit, because we cannot risk something going missing in any of that. So I think Commissioner James and I decided that the vault would be okay right now to leave that there. I don't even think there's much in there actually either.
No, and I don't think anybody's really needing to be using the vault anyway, so I believe it's fine for y'all to use that probably as long as you need to. But Chairwoman Holdren, that did open up an office that would, me and Ms. Woodby had spoke about, would make a great place for the gentleman with the forestry service where they was looking for a facility. So
Does anybody know exactly where we stand on that? Because Mayor Barnett had been in charge of that.
They did reach out to me last week, and I told her to email me everything that they were suggesting. I think originally they had said $500 towards utilities. Their budget got cut, so the most that they could do is $300 towards utilities at this point. And that would be, I think they were originally under the impression they could go pick a room out. And with my discussion with Commissioner James, they picked out the best room. So that may not work. It may have to be one of the rooms that we clear out from the circuit court clerks on the side of so they would just have the public entrance there and maybe use one of those side rooms. But she was going to email me the proposal and what the money amount was, and I yet to get that email from her.
They were paying rent of what, $500 a month plus $300 towards utilities. Is that right?
No, it was going to be $500 towards utilities, but now they can't do the $500. They can only do $300.
So they weren't going to pay any rent?
No rent. That was, she said, was what was been worked out with Mayor Barnett. So, and that Austin, had you said it had been through Building and Grounds already?
have I what?
Had it not been through Building and Grounds already?
It had, yeah. We had discussed it. Of course, it wasn't discussed to us that there was no rent. We was under the impression that it was $500 a month rent. Of course, that may be what they mean, and we was under the impression that utilities was on top of that. So I guess they're thinking it's all inclusive.
Right. That's what she said. She said then it lowered to $300 because their budget got cut.
Yeah. So for $300, you don't get the prime office space.
I assume not.
I think at those figures, it's going to have to go back through Building and Grounds, because I agree with Commissioner James, and Commissioner Johnson is also part of that committee. I don't believe we ever approved a rent-free for any group.
And I told her that this would have to go back on the Building and Grounds, but the agenda, but she said that they had already given notice. And my understanding that they had to give notice to where they're at in 90 days. If they give a 90-day notice, which they did, they only had 30 days to move out. So they have done all this already without full approval or a contract or anything being done. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think at this time, I mean, it needs to go through Building and Grounds for final approval, but I don't see no issue with us probably putting them under a month-to-month contract. You know, just once they pay their month, it renews for another 30 days, so on and so forth. And letting them maybe lease the office space that where Mr. Blankenship's, the circus clerk stuff was stored. You know, it's currently just sitting there empty anyways. And I mean, you know, it's in the center, so I don't foresee it being something that we're going to use right off the top. Now, they had picked the one that was Miss Kim's that run the Carter County Tomorrow, which I wasn't on board with because that was the whole left-hand side. Essentially, that would kill that out. You know, so if you had a business that wanted to come in that needed several office spaces, that's where they would need to go. But this one's in the center, and I think there's only one or two offices there with it, maybe. And, you know, so since we're not using it anyways, if we put them on a month-to-month, $300 is better than nothing.
As soon as she gets me that information, I'll get it to the Building and Grounds chair for the agenda. Hopefully it'll be soon.
Well, as of right now, Ms. Woodby, Commissioner Holden is the vice chair, so she'll assume the role. So she'll be preparing the agenda for this month.
As soon as I get it, I'll send it out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Superintendent Cobalt, you're up.
Okay. The Highway Department is getting ready for pavement, of course, and we've thought we'd start in Rome Mountain because of the higher elevations. Because of cold weather, it may work out better, but we've been chipping and pulling ditches on railroad grade. and over on William Brewer Road in Rome Mountain. And there's a section of Buck Mountain Road, or what's called the new Buck Mountain Road, that's in terrible shape. No one's come to me about that particular road, but I think we should go ahead and get that one. And so we're getting our equipment together. They're also clipping shoulders on Willow Springs Road, which is the state aid project. It's going to run about $220,000, but that's TDOT money, and not the governor's money that we're using for the other asphalt roads. Our bridges, we've got two bridges, of course, Dennis Cove Bridge and Hodge Branch Bridge. It's under contract, and we're hoping in the next 2 months that those bridges will hopefully be done if everything goes good. Our mowing, we finished this year unless we do get some high spots. They may be something grow up. We might have to get done. We're trying to keep our 2 slope mowers mowing back the right of way beyond what our regular mowers do. And that's about it, unless someone has some questions. I still need input from the other commissioners on roads they would like to have paved. We're looking at them, but if I can get some input, it'd be great.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Hobart. All right, Dr. McAbee, tell us about the schools.
Well, we're back at the ones who want to come back that often. And so far, things seem to be going well. I spoke with Beth Baer the other day, and she went over a few things with the principals and teachers. And just as a point of comparison, she said at that point, we probably had 30 something cases, some 30 kids quarantined, 37, something like that, compared to some of the neighboring counties that had hundreds of kids. So I think we're doing really good with that. Many of our schools are thinking outside the box, and they're using auxiliary gyms to feed them and all kinds of things like that so that we can still social distance even at lunchtime. So they're doing a really good job with that. And the parents, I think, are happy to have their children back in school. The other thing is, I just want to thank this commission. I'm fully aware of how generous you are with our schools. You go above and beyond, and I appreciate that. But really, just the day-to-day operations are going well. Excuse me, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Dr. McAbee, have you had any teachers retire here recently with all this going on, as far as they're worried about the virus and doing the online work? Are you seeing anything like that with the teachers?
All right, so I'm privy to the last 2 that retired. One, she came up, and of course, you know, Peggy's out right now, so Kathy and I are shouldering a lot of that. And Kathy does a lot of that paperwork. I spoke with Kathy. The one lady, it was some kind of family issue, not necessarily COVID related. Another gentleman retired, and it's, I guess, kind of COVID related because we've had to do a lot more with computers and remote learning and that kind of thing. And he was just like, you know, this is not what I signed up for when I started teaching years ago. And so the computer, the technology end of it kind of, I think, had him down. And so he went ahead and retired. So as far as anyone coming to me and saying I'm scared of the COVID, that it's going to kill me or my family, I've not had anything like that.
I was just curious if you had any rise in retirements or anything since they've been.
We have, yes, but we have, but not the specific I'm afraid of COVID comment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. McAbee?
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, commissioner comments. Austin James, anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to tell everybody I appreciate the committee and appreciate being reelected back onto it. And hopefully we can get some done this year. And congratulations to Chairwoman Holdren, and hope she enjoys the year here.
Thank you, Commissioner James. All right, Vice Chair Hill.
I'd just like to maybe ask Brad and the committee if they think we should come up with an investment committee. What are your all's thoughts on that?
Let's do it.
I do.
Can we put that Chairwoman Holdren on next month under new business?
Yes, we sure can.
And I appreciate everybody on this committee, and I look forward to another good year on here. Thank you all.
Okay, and I would just like to say thank you again for your faith in me as the leader for this coming year. I'm excited to take on that role, and very, very grateful for the mentorship I've had under Brad Johnson. And so at this time, Mr. Johnson, do you have any closing comments?
I only have one thing, Madam Chairman, and it has been an honor. And the honor is just great because I see the benefits that due to our labor, to our employees and their dependents, and the work that has been done by the Financial Management Committee has been second to none. I mean, to really, really, really have put the hours in and the thoughts in, and have taken your personal feelings aside and worked close as a team. And I can tell you, there's none that can compare to it. And I see a lot of the employees and their dependents that give thanks for being able to, insure their children and their family. When you only had one family, now you got multiple. So we just keep the work up, and I know under the new leadership, I'm very proactive of rotation of that, because there's a lot of our commissioners that are younger than us old horses that has great capabilities, and you got to tap into that, not let it go dormant. And then thank every one of you so much.
Thank you. It's under your leadership that those things have been accomplished, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all so much. Everybody in favor, sign off.
Everybody have a great day.
Y'all take care.
Y'all.
Oh, James, he's slow to get there, but he's fast to get out of them, ain't he? Golly, bro.